Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates Micron Technologies Semiconductor Facility in Sanand in Gujarat, says the facility to strengthen India's role in global value chain. West Asia on the boil, US and Israel launch strikes against Iran, targeting its leadership. Multiple Iranian cities attacked, at least 40 killed so far. Iran launches retaliatory strikes, targets Israel and US bases in Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Doha, Riyadh, Manama in Bahrain and Kuwait. India issues urgent safety advisory for its nationals across West Asia, urges citizens to exercise utmost caution. The United States and Israel launched a major coordinated military operation against Iran on Saturday, marking one of the most serious escalations in the region in years. The offensive, described by Israel as a preemptive strike and by the US as part of a broader campaign to halt Iran's nuclear and missile programs, involved air and sea strikes on multiple Iranian cities. The explosions were reported across the Iranian capital Tehran, including near key government and security locations. Reports indicate that the office complex of the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was struck through unconfirmed, though these reports are unconfirmed, Isfahan, Qom, Karaj and Kermanshah sites linked to Iran's missile infrastructure and military facilities were also reportedly struck. The first wave of strikes in what the Pentagon has named as Operation Epic Fury mainly targeted Iranian officials. An Israeli official said that Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and President Masoud Pezeshkian were both targeted, but the result of the strike was not clear. Meanwhile, the death toll in Israeli-US strike on a girls' school in southern Iran has risen to at least 40, with at least 45 others wounded in the attack in Menab. In Iran's Hormozgan province, Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard has a base in the city. An Iranian source close to the establishment said that several senior commanders in the IRGC, or Iran's Revolutionary Guard, and the political officials have been killed. And Iran's Revolutionary Guard said that a first wave of retaliatory Iranian missile and drone attacks had been launched against Israel, and that all US bases and interests in the region were within Iran's reach. Iran's retaliation would continue, they said, until the enemy is decisively defeated. These are the words of the IRGC. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the joint campaign launched against Iran has been named Operation Roaring Lion, and it's meant to remove the threat to both Israel and US posed by the regime in Tehran.
A short while ago, Israel and the United States embarked on a joint campaign, Operation Roaring Lion. The goal of the operation is to end the threat posed by Ayatollah's regime in Iran. Together with the United States, we will strike the terror regime harshly. We will create the conditions that will allow the brave Iranian people to rid themselves of the burden of this murderous regime. This is your chance to establish a new and free Iran. Take your fate into your own hands. Raise your head, lift your eyes to the sky. Our forces are there, pilots of the free world. Everyone is coming to your aid. Help has arrived, and I believe The day is near when Israel and free Iran will hold hands in favor of security and peace, in favor of progress and prosperity.
לטובת הקדמה והשגשוג.
And Israeli authorities are urging its citizens to prepare emergency shelters as tensions rise. The Home Front command of the IDF their army emphasizes their readiness and following official guidelines to stay safe. Here's Chief Shai Clapper's message for the Israeli public.
Past experience proves that thanks to your impressive resilience and adherence to the guidelines, many lives have been saved. The strength and responsibility of each and every one of you are a central component in dealing with the threat. Use the coming time to get to know and prepare the optimal protected space near you. At this time, the local authorities are opening the public shelters for you. The forces are deployed, alert and ready to provide an immediate response to ensure your safety. Follow the Home Front Command's instructions. They save lives.
שמעו להנחיות פיקוד העורף, הן מצילות חיים.
And the Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson, Brigadier General Efi Defran, has said that Israel and US forces launched a broad coordinated operation targeting Iranian military infrastructure and command centers, calling it a response to what he described as an existential threat.
The IDF and the United States military have launched a broad, joint and coordinated operation aimed at significantly harming the Iranian terror regime and its capabilities. Their regime poses a real existential threat to the state of Israel, to the Middle East and to the entire world. This is an operation against a concrete threat that was directed at us. Our policy is clear. We confront threats already in their early stages. We will not allow the Iranian terror regime to arm itself, build its power and become a threat to the security of the state of Israel.
And Iran also retaliated. It launched missile strikes on key American military installations in the region. It hit Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar and Bahrain. The attacks claimed by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps were described as retaliation for coordinated US and Israeli strikes on Iranian territory earlier in the day. In Qatar, the Al Udeid air base near Doha, which is one of the largest US military hubs in the region, was among the primary targets. Qatar's defense ministry confirmed that all incoming missiles were intercepted successfully. Explosions were reported in the capital, but officials said there were no casualties or material damage. Authorities urged residents to report any suspicious debris. And in Kuwait, the Al Salim air base came under fire. While the government has not released an official damage assessment, regional security sources indicated the defensive systems were activated in response to the Iranian barrage. And Bahrain also confirmed missile strikes on its territory, including the headquarters of the US Navy's 5th Fleet in Manama. The base is a strategic command center overseeing maritime security across the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea and parts of the Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, Iran also targeted the Al Dhafra air base near Abu Dhabi, which hosts the US forces and advanced aircraft. However, witnesses in Dubai reported hearing a powerful explosion and seeing missiles streak across the sky. And Saudi Arabia has also been drawn into the conflict with reports of missiles targeting areas near Riyadh. US President Donald Trump announced that major combat is underway to destroy Iran's missile forces and annihilate the country's navy. Trump said that US aims to defend the Americans by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, as stated by Trump in a video posted on his social media.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts.
And to get more on the developments, I'm joined by my reporters Shubhendu Ghosh and Akshay Dongre. Both of us are joining us from New Delhi. Both are tracking the events since morning. First to you, Akshay, give us, we know, a school has been struck in Iran, at least 40 killed. Do we know, and these 40 Iranian students, 45 injured. Do we know of any more casualties, reports of casualties from Iran, in Iran?
Well, just a revision in these numbers. Now over 50 students apparently, according to the Iranian authorities, have been killed. In fact, the number that is being given is 51 students, killed in this strike. And if this is
you're saying this is the Iranian authorities are giving these numbers? Okay.
Yes, and we have many more such strikes that have taken place all over the country. So initially, it was estimated that 5 cities have been come under attack, but now the number is much more, much larger as far as the number of cities that have been targeted by the Israeli and the U.S. Coordinated attacks that have carried on since morning. But as far as the further casualties are concerned, we'll have to wait for further numbers to be given by the Iranian authorities, because there's a lot happening, Amritpal, and as we know, every hour, every minute, things are changing. Some country or some area is reporting some explosion, interception of missiles, interception of drones. Iranian authorities retaliating. However, if you look at the situation, there is hardly any comparison between the two sides. One side.
Actually, I'll come to that. We'll come to the Iranian retaliatory strikes. First let's look at the damage caused in Iran.
Right.
Shubhendu, is there anything more that you can add to what Akshay says? Akshay says 51 killed, multiple cities attacked. There are also reports of, the basis of the missile centers being attacked by Israel. Are there any nuclear facilities hit? Is there any leadership hurt as of now? Are there any IRGC Revolutionary Guard commanders hit in Iran? Let us know about what reports from the reports that you've been tracking.
Amrit, as we speak, this is a period of active conflict, and we understand that there's a complete mobile internet shutdown in Iran. So whatever information is coming out is actually filtering through the sort of spokespersons of the Iranian government. In that sense, what we've learned from the attackers, which is the preempted attack by Israel and America, is that their aim was to target the military installations. The first attacks that happened in Tehran were, in fact, offices around a place where Supreme Leader Khamenei is usually expected to be present. So the target was the top leadership of Iran. in an ideal situation, America and Israel would have preferred a sort of surgical strike to eliminate the top leadership. Remember, the President Donald Trump, in no uncertain terms, has now spoken about the target is regime change, not a targeted attack on a nuclear facility or to dismantle a certain ecosystem, as we saw in American operations last year in June. This time over US President Donald Trump, we also heard him in the show earlier. He clearly stated the entire chronology, in fact, of the US-Iran conflict, really trying to give a context to this, what appears to be like a large-scale attack across Iran in assistance with, in partnership with Israel. So from the side of the Americans and Israelis, we're learning that key military and government installations have been targeted specifically. No civilian target was aimed at. However, what is coming out of Iran is that the school that you mentioned and other civilian installations have been, such infrastructure has been targeted. So you also see this moment of conflict. There are kind of opposing perspectives coming in, and one can only take it by the word of people who are giving up the updates. So military installations seems to be the focus of Israeli and the Americans. And the attacks have taken place across Iran. Initially, it started with Tehran, then to Isfahan, Tabriz, Elam, Qom, Disbaul in south of Iran were also being targeted. And it appears today marked like the first phase of attack preempted attack by the Israeli and the Americans, and the response thereafter by Iran. And what we're in fact witnessing now for the past couple of hours are international reactions coming in. Some initial reactions came in from Russia earlier, condemning the American action. And
all right, we'll look at that separately. We'll look at that separately. Let me bring Akshay back in. Akshay, if you read Netanyahu's statement or listen to his statement, it says Operation Roaring Lion is meant to remove the threat to both Israel and the United States posed by the regime in Tehran. Shubhendu says, that's what we can, imply from Donald Trump's statement as well. To your mind, what seems to be the objective of this strike? Because there is no immediate provocation for it. I mean, the nuclear program and the missile enrichment and the regime, etc., have been there for a while.
Well, it's just the timing, Amritpal. As far as the situation was ripe for Israel to carry out an attack against Iranian regime. So there have been attempts time and again. Israel earlier has also tried to, sort of attack the Irani regime. There have been protests also that were taking place a few days back only, and there were threats coming in from the United States that they will intervene. Donald Trump said he'll have to intervene if Iran doesn't stop killing its people. There has been also a large set of propaganda that has been launched from Israeli side as far as the Islamic regime in Iran is concerned.
So then does Akshay, to you it seem that the objective of the strike, of these strikes, the joint strikes, is annihilation of the regime?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. The top leadership, Israel has tried to sort of dismantle the top regime. We have seen it, and their adversaries. They will try to inflict damage against each other. Israel has tried to maintain better ties with several countries in its neighborhood. Many of them have aligned themselves to the more pro-US side, and if you're more pro-US, then Israel automatically assumes that it is not a threat to them anymore. But the only major power in that part of the world was Iran, that was not aligned with the US government, that was not friendly with the US government, and it remained a threat to the existence of Israel, as they considered, Iranian regime a powerful country and not aligned with the US-Israeli interest. So they had to initiate a regime change. They had tried a lot of things, didn't work. Iran still pursued its nuclear ambitions, and if it would have gotten nuclear weapons in any manner,
Okay.
then it would have been an existential threat as assumed
says.
by the Israeli side.
Okay. Akshay,
so they had to
yeah.
something, and this seems to be the end goal.
Okay. Akshay, any update on the whereabouts and the status of the safety of the Ayatollah and also the president?
Well, Amrit, not exactly. They have been moved to a safe location. Was the first reaction that came in from the Iranian government, and since then we saw it in June as well when the hostilities erupted last year. That the first thing that happened was the supreme leader was moved to a safer location, and he stayed there. He remained there till the time the hostilities were not completely over. And once there was a proper ceasefire in place, then Khamenei came out and he addressed his people. Until then, he was communicating via social media and other means. But as of now, we do not know the whereabouts. We do not even know what is the well-being of the leadership of the Iranian regime. What is the status? There were initial reports coming in that some sort of covert ground operations are also taking place that have been launched by the Israeli side, in the cover of all of these missile strikes. But no clarity as of now about the whereabouts of the Iranian
Of course,
regime.
it's an ongoing conflict, and information trickles in slowly. Shubhendu, if regime change is the objective of these strikes, how easy or difficult is it going to be for the Americans and the Israelis? Because it's not just the Ayatollah, it's not just Pezeshkian that you need to take out, it's a whole stack of leadership, the IRGC commanders especially.
It does, Amrit. Looks a bit of a fantasy when U.S. President, in his that about 8 minutes address, says that it's a moment of freedom. It's an hour of freedom. He says, if I quote him, for the people of Iran, and he says, simply put, that we're going to eliminate the top leadership, and then you can take over, and you can have a happy, prosperous country. And you wanted America to do this. Now we're doing it. Now it isn't as simple as that. The kind of power vacuum that will be created. U.S. President did list, as I mentioned earlier, the entire history broadly of the conflict between America and Iran, the manner in which Iran had also sort of attacked, retaliated, and done damage to American presence. But what he does not reflect on is the history of American interventions and American toppling governments across the world, especially in West Asia, from Afghanistan to Iraq. Each time America had come in, toppled existing government, whatever their political stance may have been. The resultant political vacuum that was created has almost always led to
instability, destabilizing the region. Absolutely.
Which became eventually a bigger threat for America. So that part of the argument is not very thought out very well, it appears, for now, Mark. Amrit, beg your pardon. Reza Pahlavi's name is sort of coming up also prominently, the son of the exiled Shah, that if the regime falls, it would create a certain fertile ground for this son of the deposed leader to come in. But he does not really command that kind of political mileage. Will people of Iran support him? What is the view of people of Iran on this kind of a toppling of government? Yes, there have been protests in Iran by the people against the regime. But very often sources, experts say that in a case of an external aggression, when an outside country attacks your country, a lot of times these internal differences are kept aside, and then the country unites, people are sort of brought closer to. So that simplicity with which Donald Trump says that the government would be toppled and a new era would begin for Iran.
That's easier said than done. Of course, it will lead to more instability and destabilizing the region rather than provide answers. Donald Trump's rhetoric, like many of his predecessors, is only in the US interest. Very quickly, Akshay, because this producer Deepak, my friend, is after my life to wind this up. Very quickly, what kind of damage has Iran been able to inflict on US bases and Israel?
Well, as we were talking about retaliation, and Iran has been warning about retaliation, but there is hardly any comparison between the power dynamics between the two sides. One side you have a superpower with its aircraft carrier, 5th generation fighter jets, Patriot missile systems. Then there is Israel. Then in the region as well, you have so many proxies: Kuwait, UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and so many countries with some of the best weapon systems in the world. Qatar has Rafales. Kuwait has other fighter jets. Saudi Arabia has one of the finest forces in the world, especially in that region. So the power dynamics do not really match. But Iran has tried. There are report of one person killed in UAE.
Okay.
But there is some damage that has been inflicted in other parts of the other areas as well in other countries too, especially where there are US bases.
Okay.
But most of these threats, missiles, drones are being intercepted.
All right.
And as long as Iran is fighting on its own and doesn't have support of China or Russia, there is hardly Iran will be able to do any significant damage to either Israel or the US forces there or any other country. So the power dynamics do not really match. Iran would try to do as much damage as possible before it calls for...
but as you say, the power dynamics do not really match. I'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Akshay Dongre and Shubhendu Ghosh, for joining us on this broadcast. And India on Saturday issued fresh advisories for its citizens residing in the UAE, Israel, Iran and Saudi Arabia's Riyadh amid escalating tensions in West Asia following the US-Israeli strikes on Iran. In Israel, the Embassy of India in Tel Aviv has advised Indian residents to remain vigilant at all times and closely follow safety instructions issued by Israeli authorities. Indian nationals have been asked to stay near designated shelters, identify protected spaces near their homes or workplaces, and avoid all non-essential movement. Some phone numbers have also been put out of the embassy. In case of distress, Indian citizens can get in touch with the embassy. In Iran, the Embassy of India has advised all Indian nationals to remain indoor and closely monitor, avoid unnecessary movement and closely monitor local developments. Emergency contact numbers have also been issued by the embassy there. All this is on the social media handles of the Indian embassies. We are putting out their statements on your screen. In the UAE, the Indian embassy in Abu Dhabi has also issued precautionary advisory. Indian citizens have been advised to avoid unnecessary travel, remain alert, comply with safety guidelines issued by the UAE authorities. Similarly, Indian nationals residing in Riyadh, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, have been asked to remain vigilant and strictly follow safety guidelines issued by local authorities. The Embassy of India in Riyadh and the consulate in Jeddah are operating normally and will issue further updates as and when required. Similar advisories have been issued for Palestine and Qatar, requesting Indian nationals to remain vigilant and observe locally advised safety and emergency procedures while following news and advisories. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi today inaugurated a semiconductor assembly, test and packaging facility of Micron Semiconductor Technology India Private Limited in Sanand during his visit to Gujarat. The inauguration marks a significant milestone in India's semiconductor manufacturing journey with the commencement of commercial production and shipment of the first made-in-India semiconductor memory modules from the Sanand ATMP facility. The project was the first proposal approved under India Semiconductor Mission with a total investment of over 22,500 crore rupees. The facility's groundwork was laid in September 2023. Union Minister for Electronics and Information and Technology, Ashwini Vaishnav, and senior Micron executives were present on the occasion. Addressing the gathering, Prime Minister Modi said that India AI Impact Summit, which was organized in India, introduced the world with its AI capability.
Micron की DRAM और नेट सॉल्यूशंस दुनिया भर के डेटा सेंटर्स, एआई एप्लीकेशंस, मोबाइल डिवाइसेस और एडवांस कंप्यूटिंग सिस्टम को शक्ति देती है। अब ये यही इसी साणंद की धरती पर बनेंगे। यहां एडवांस वेफर्स को हाई क्वालिटी मेमोरी और स्टोरेज प्रोडक्ट्स में बदला जाएगा। इस प्लांट में अभी सैकड़ों लोगों को रोजगार मिला है। आने वाले समय में इसमें और अधिक विस्तार होगा।
That's it from me for the moment. Keep watching DD India Live. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.